Hey, it's Amir Bormand, and we're doing another episode of the Daily 10 on the Talent Tango with Arash, my brother and business partner.
Hello.
What we want to do sometimes is just talk about what's happening in the office, obviously, and just kind of, what's up topic of mind. And we've decided to shift a couple of our software applications to a new vendor.
Scary.
And it sounds exciting in the beginning, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get all these new features, and it's so cool." And
It's
then
like a fancy toy, a new toy.
slowly, yeah, I mean, I have a 6-year-old, and you give her a new toy, and she loves it, and then 2 minutes later, she's forgotten about it. So this is that exact same feeling where it's like, "This is awesome, can't wait to play," and then you're like, "It's a little bit different, maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit worse." It's a bit of a mixed bag,
I
but
kinda like the old system and what I could do there, or is that just being familiar with something?
yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you're familiar with it, but then you and it's like, is this sometimes it's like there's this particular functionality or feature you want, and you're like, this one particular thing would help a lot. And in our case, we were looking at, being able to track documents better. And I think part of the reason we're switching platforms is just to gain that one function. But there's other integrations. This CRM integrates calendar functionality as well. So
Yeah, I mean, that's always the
you gain,
do you do you gain more than you lose? I think that's the ultimate question in
but
the
the
end of the
training
day.
side of it is so.
Yeah, it's
I
a pain in
mean,
the ass.
it feels like it feels like you're literally moving your home. I feel like that's what like. I feel this week. It feels like you're moving where you've like packed all the boxes, you've moved, and then you're at your new place, and the boxes are all there, and you're like, where does it all go? And you feel uncomfortable because every time you think you know where something is, you're like, "No, I don't know where that goes. I'm not
Yeah,
sure what to do with it."
it's definitely like a new pair of shoes. They don't feel comfortable when you put them on.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, it takes a week, but I think, some of it is obviously as a recruiting company, like we have different tools. We have our applicant tracking system, the CRM's kind of layering on top. And I think what's tricky for us is, we're trying to get everyone to shift from the previous, CRM like tool, but also we're trying to be like, all right, this one has a little more functionality, so you guys can't treat it like the applicant tracking system. You still have to use the system of record. So it's going to require a little bit more policing to make sure that people are using the right system in the right way. So we haven't I don't think we really documented the previous systems we've documented pretty well, and I think this one, we're gonna have to go back and create, some we do a lot of Loom video documentations versus, like, long drawn out, written documentations just because somebody can watch the video and see what you're doing. To me, it's a lot easier than reading how to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we gotta first figure it out to be the expert or somewhat of an expert, at least to be able to document it. So I think it's trial and error until we, as a group, or me and Amir, figure out how to use it best to then be able to walk people through. So far, it's kind of the village is making the
I'm
move.
super unhappy, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm kinda I kinda feel like I'm wearing a brand new pair of shoes or jeans the first time. You're like, "Man, this is not super comfy." But, I do also know that
Not many people like change, so
no, most people don't like change. Well, I mean, we all are creatures of habit. We like to do the same thing and do it again because it's a pattern. Like, I'm listening to the book, Atomic Habits. I think it's by James Clear or James Clearly. I can't recall. It's one of the 2. But it really talks about how people, um habits are formed and how habits get broken and how much of what you do every day is based around habit and triggers, and breaking them is so difficult because your mind has just like it's got this ingrained, you know, habitual process that it loves to do. And I love habit because it's a structure. I like waking up and doing the same things every morning because I know my routine is there. And if you throw it off, it screws me up for my whole day. So now coming in, it's a new system. I'm kind of like, man, I'm dreading some of the parts of the work because I'm like, I gotta go do this. I gotta go create this from scratch because I don't have it in the other system. I had it and I can't port it over. So it's like all net new. So it is a bit of, it was my idea, which is kind of like the bittersweet type of thing because I think it'll help the company, but I think, on the flip side, if I did
it's
not.
the age old short term pain for long term gain, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think long term probably helps, I think probably long term, we're gonna gain a lot more functionality, and I think anytime you're looking at 2 vendors and you're like, "Do I make a switch?" And I think that's why a lot of people don't make switches, like,
Yeah,
our applicant tracking system, I don't know if I really wanna ever change that because that's just would be a monstrous shift because it is the system of record, it is where everything happens. Other tools can come and go because in the end, that the ATS has all your core data,
right.
but then you need to start thinking about this new system. We're gonna have to create some rules of governance of, "Hey, these are the processes, here's the do's or don'ts," and, until we become experts at it, it's gonna take a time, and yeah, I don't know. It's so far people are
Hence
asking
why
me.
implementations take a long time typically.
Yeah, typically they do, but I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I think outside of habit and change, I think for the most part we've done a good job. Everyone's over and everyone's now kind of used to the way that the new system works, and I think it's now more or less just trying to figure out, there's some nuances, there's questions coming up, but also I think the other flip side to this is now there's 2 systems running parallel,
Sure, yeah.
and you're like, "Well, now I gotta maintain the other one because there's still activity in it versus the new one, there's new activity in that." So it's kinda a little bit of you're duplicating work, so
Yeah, I think you obviously have to let things run, and that transition always, presents a little bit of a influx type of situation. But you just got to make sure everybody knows what to do and what not to do with the old system too. So I think that's something good to address when you're making a transition. Is like, look, do everything new in the new system, right? Let the old because people will want to use what is already there, but making sure it's just like net new system, old stuff, let it be.
well, at larger companies, there'll be like a whole change management process. So if you're going to do anything like this, I mean, it would be rigorously done. Obviously, we're a small company, so we've got to pick and choose the battles that we're going to have. But yeah, in terms of the change management, it's kind of making me take a step back and go, I appreciate some of the bigger company processes of what they have to do to make sure, like in their case, they're moving 1,000 people, we're moving a handful of people, so, we can kludge it up and get by, but, what seems like a very I guess that's the thing that's really, we haven't done this in a long time, so it's hitting me is like what seems pretty simplified. It's like, "Well, we're gonna make this change, it's gonna be better," and then it's like once you're in the knee
The
deep
thick of
into
it,
it, you think
yeah.
of it, now you're halfway, I can't go back now. Now I am too far committed to this plan, and everyone's kind of now committed, we're on the same page, and you've gotta just drive forward, which, I mean, applies to almost anything you do. Once you have a plan, I mean, you gotta march towards the goal.
Well, you've made a decision for
Yeah.
at that point in time what you think is best,
Yeah, you gotta see it through.
right?
Yeah, you gotta
So unless the
execute.
product literally cannot do what they sold you on, then maybe you make a U-turn. But this is just a matter of getting used to it. So that's you just gotta take the pain.
I just don't like the change. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think
Yeah, I don't like it either. It's a pain, but you
I had
just
the
learn and
same
go from it.
breakfast once. So I love Puffins. There's a brand of cereal. They're little,
Trader Joe's if you're
Trader Joe's
curious.
everywhere has it. Walmart, I no, Walmart, Whole Foods has it. I mean, they're everywhere, but they're a little crunchy, puffy type of, corn cereal, and the cinnamon flavor no, the peanut butter flavor. Love the peanut butter flavor. I fell in love with this I literally had it for 364 days, I think, straight, 'cause I just loved it. It's crunchy, it wouldn't absorb the milk in the
I would
cereal.
hope you like it if you had
I
it every
loved
morning.
it. I'm lactose intolerant, so I had to have a lactate, and it balanced the flavor of the weird lactate milk, so I was like, "This is brilliant." Day number, like, at the year marker, I woke up one day, poured a bowl, I looked at it, and I was like, "That's it, I'm done." So I guess in terms of change, I guess at some point when the pain's too much, you're like, you'll do it. So, yeah, but I think it's interesting because you don't you're doing the job and you normally are not actually getting into shifting processes to have to worry about documenting it because
Yeah,
they're
and it
pretty
doesn't even always have
ironed
to
out.
be like a system change, right? It could just be literally you're changing the flow of your workflow
Yeah, it could
or
be the
processes.
flow.
It doesn't have to be a system change to mean that you have to go through the same changes or documentation and transition. In this case, it's learning something new, it's like a mini new language.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, no, I think anything with a process change is gonna have it's a similar impact. So I think if it is software, it's actually just pure process. I think understanding that there's going to be some effort to shift your workflow. Nobody likes to shift your workflow. Um, always takes a little bit of time. But like I said, I think it's interesting because when you're deciding it, that's in the back of your mind, and you just rip the Band-Aid off, and you're like, "Well, we're gonna make the shift." And then when you're knee deep in it, you're like, yeah, maybe I should have really thought about the pain of shifting. But yeah, I mean, we transitioned different ATSs before, and we've gone through it. I'm sure everyone out there's been a part of moving from old school email to some cloud provider, whether it's Gmail or Office
Sure, yeah.
365. So it's pretty common, and you kind of get through it. But yeah, curious to see if you have any war stories about somebody ripping out your beloved processes or applications and forcing you to learn something new and do something in a foreign way. I think that's it for today's 10.
That's it.
We're going to sign off. Leave us a review, give us some feedback. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks.
Later.